Early during the stay-at-home order, I saw that Ellen Off from our congregation was making her special Mennonite rolls. She was raised in a Mennonite home with wonderful recipes for homemade things. And to my delight, she called and asked if there were people in our church who might appreciate some of her homemade rolls. I jumped at the chance and gave her a few names, but I resisted putting my own name on the list. And to the delight of our homebound members, she left packages on their doorsteps. Now, those rolls carried with them many implicit messages, along with her handwritten note. They could have said, hello, thank you, I miss you, I appreciate you, I care about you, I'm thinking about you. And in addition to that, for Ellen, it reminded her of baking with her mom when she was a child. The whole circle was complete. It brought warmth to her heart. It carried forward into the hearts and the mouths of those she blessed with her rolls. I admire Ellen for being creative and seeing through that isolating haze of the days of staying home and isolating, and then finding a creative way to reach out to people she knew and those she didn't. She pried herself from her routine and undertook a creative action that meant something to her and to others. You know, it has been easy during these times to get stuck. I mean, stuck. Really stuck. TV is full of reruns. And even those things that aren't reruns, we've watched over and over. No good movies are being made during coronavirus. Stores are closing, and some won't even ever open again. It isn't safe to go into places that we're accustomed to going. We're supposed to stay in instead of going around to our regular social things. We're trying to not eat out as much, and we're trying not to invite people over as much. And life is going at a much slower pace. Many people are encouraging their employees to work from home, and we have completed the tasks that we have postponed and aren't certain what to do next, and we've even completed the tasks that we didn't want to do in the first place. So it's easy to get stuck. That's why Paul and I have been preaching about reigniting our lives. And during a pandemic, we all need a bit of a push to get moving and keep a charge in our batteries. So today's lesson on reigniting our lives is about motion. I loved Paul's images of dancing and celebration as thanksgiving to God. How do we start when we're in a rut? How can we be productive when we're staying at home? How do we get unstuck? How do we move out of inertia and into action? Our traditional texts for today are two, one from the Psalms and one from Ephesians. They remind us ancient wisdom to number our days. First from Ephesians 5:15 to 17. Be careful then how you live, not as unwise people, but as wise, making the most of your time, because days are evil. So do not be foolish, but understand what the will of the Lord is. And from Psalm 90. So teach us to count our days, that we may gain a wise heart. Teach us to count our days, that we may gain a wise heart. Dave and Joan were a husband and wife team of dentist and hygienist, and they were accustomed to working very long hours together. But when they retired, time loomed large for them, and it took a great many activities to fill that time that they were accustomed to working. First, they began working as a team, and they started carving and then painting fine decoys. Their decoys became so great that they even won a national championship. But they discovered that their work with carving decoys wasn't enough to fill their time. So they began volunteering their dental services at a prison. And that was wonderful in addition to carving decoys, and it kept their hands busy. But they found it still wasn't enough. So Joan started working out at a local gym, and Dave looked around for yet another hobby and found it in baking fresh bread. He gave loaves to his friends and neighbors, and soon people were asking for bread baking lessons, and Dave found that he enjoyed teaching novice bread makers. The more I do, he said, the more I want to do. And the more I sit around, the more I want to sit around. And that's hard. So what they learned was that taking one action leads to more action. A small step took us on a journey, they said, that helped us know what we want and also helped us know what we don't want, what we want more of, and what we want less of. One action helps us bring clarity and goals. So I would suggest to you, if you're feeling a bit stuck, read the Go section of the Wichita Eagle online or in print, and that can help you in your first step in determining the next step. Or call a friend and agree to meet and make a plan on what your first step could be. Julia Cameron, in the book we've been following, says taking the first step moves us from stasis into action. And when we move into action, we actually gain self-esteem. We value our actions, and we actually value ourselves for taking those actions. We feel a sense of our own power. As we act in the direction of our own dreams, we are given strength and courage. The first word leads to the next. Many of us have spent years dreaming of what we want to do, something we want to attempt, or a project we want to happen. It could be something we've postponed, a room that needs to be cleaned out, or a stack of things that needs to be sorted. It might be a phone call to be made, or a personal time, our money, physical need that we've put off, and we really should get checked out. Or a program we need to start. What relationships do we need to take more action in? Is there a financial issue that we need to attend to? What about a creative endeavor we've never explored? Is there something about your residence you would like to change? Is there a new skill or trait you would like to develop? Would you benefit from a makeover or some self-care? To get moving, we must focus on small things, like doing the dishes or taking out the trash. It's when we look around and think we have to clean the whole house that we're tempted to feel such overwhelming, and we sit down defeated. But if we agree in our own mind that we'll just start with the trash, then the rest will be easier. You see, each small step will dictate the next. When the body is in motion, it's easier to stay in motion. And that is a spiritual truth. Ralph Waldo Emerson wrote, "What lies behind us and what lies before us are tiny matters compared to what lies within us." Even doing a mundane task can help start some forward motion when we are stuck. When I was in Indiana recently, I noticed that my son, who is working from home and receives phone calls from people who are doing investments or are the recipients of investments of their heirs of an investment. So he gets calls from grieving people, he gets calls from angry people whose stocks have tanked, he gets calls from all kinds of people who are either elated or very unhappy, and sometimes he gets people who are not kind to him on the phone, even though he has no control over the market. Anyway, I noticed that sometimes in the middle of the day, he would walk outside and throw a tennis ball with the dog when he seemed to be stressed. They didn't play very long. Maybe he would throw the ball 3 or 4 times, and then he would just walk back in and go down to the basement and take more phone calls. But I noticed it was enough for him to get his mind cleansed of whatever was troubling him. I know another person who walks around the building when he's struggling to focus at work. He doesn't even walk around the whole block, just the building he works in. He jumps up from his desk and he tells his coworkers he will be gone for 2 or 3 minutes, and he just heads out to clear his mind, and it seems to work for him. I recently had an MRI where my head went into the machine first. I didn't think I was claustrophobic, but it was a complete panic experience, and I had no idea that I would feel that kind of anxiety. Now, I've had MRIs many times before with no problem at all, but in that little tiny space with no light and lots of noise, I knew I had to do something to distract my brain from all that crazy things that went on in my head. So I sang at the top of my lungs to distract my brain from the crazy thoughts. And it worked for 35 minutes. I hope no one heard me, but it didn't matter because it worked. I'm here to tell you, if we think of God as an acronym, G-O-D, good, orderly direction, we can move forward and positively and productively. That's what the psalmist encourages, to count our days and to be wise. So there it is. If you're stuck during coronavirus and not feeling very motivated, start small and think about good, orderly direction. Think about something good, something orderly, and something that gives you direction. Start somewhere. Sing. Throw the dog a ball. Take a walk. Bake some bread. Do something nice for a neighbor or a friend. And then do the next small thing. It will set your body in motion, and you'll know the next right thing. Good, orderly direction, and God will tell you the next right thing. Amen.